Hello, I am Addie Shepard and I'm the Safety Manager here at Glacier Jet Center. Today I will be providing you a risk briefing on the hazards and risks associated with thermal runaway of portable electronic devices, specifically how this affects our customers, our employees, and our overall daily operations. To begin, I have provided the FAA's definition of a thermal runaway. As you can see here on the screen, it is the overheating of lithium-ion batteries or lithium batteries in portable electronic devices that can then result in fire or minor explosions. The FAA recommends just halon extinguishers or water extinguishers to put out these fires, and they recommend that these electronic devices do not be moved until they are fully extinguished. To start off with the first hazard specific to our operations here, I will give you a scenario. There's a pilot who's been flying all day. He's using his iPad, he's using his phone, as we all do. He comes into our FBO and he's ready for a quick nap and to recharge. He sits back in our pilot's lounge, plugs in his phone and his iPad, and takes a nap. Suddenly, he's woken by a strange smell and a popping sound. He looks where he left his phone and he sees that it is on fire. He reacts suddenly and runs to our front desk and informs them that there's a fire. They run back and view the fire before running to get a fire extinguisher. By the time all this commotion has occurred and by the time we can call fire department, this fire has grown exponentially and is causing severe damage. By the time the fire is extinguished, this damage is severe to our building and any potential intake of smoke from the employees and pilot working around this. For this reason, this hazard has been identified as a 4C hazard. The likelihood is occasional. This phone most likely had a thermal overrun from overcharge, a potential power surge that then heated those batteries and caused this thermal runaway. The severity would be major as the damage to the building would be exponential and could be very catastrophic if not contained quickly. And one thing that I will point out is recently our airport fire department has undergone some changes and we now understand that the response time could be longer than usual. So this hazard is a very likely scenario. And there's some things we can do to prevent it. So currently our employees do have fire extinguisher training, but they're not trained specifically in thermal runaway fires, and we don't have any charging stations. So how can we mitigate this? To start off, I would recommend by improving our power infrastructure and designating charging stations. One behind our desk for employees, one in our lobby, and one in our pilot's lounge would be great resources for everyone. These improved power infrastructures could prevent power surges, which would then ultimately prevent thermal runaway. We also need to maintain extinguishers throughout the building. We currently do maintain them, but they are not well labeled, and had that pilot seen a fire extinguisher on his way to the front desk, he could have grabbed it and extinguished the fire himself, or our employees could have grabbed one. As well as currently our employees are trained for annual fire extinguisher training, but we need to train them specifically in thermal runaway fires of portable electronic devices and provide them further education for these instances. If we did implement these things, we can mitigate this hazard to a 2D hazard. It is improbable that this would then occur with our charging stations, and the damage or severity would be very minor as it would just be contained around that device and it is extinguished immediately. The second hazard I would like to discuss focuses more on a thermal runaway in the event around a fueling operation and with our employees specifically. This could look like a thermal runaway could occur from maybe a phone getting exposed to aviation fuels and then later having a thermal runaway. Let's say it's in a hangar or someone's pocket while they're fueling or sitting on the step of a fuel truck. This could be very, very dangerous because if a thermal runaway occurs around any fueling operations, it could cause that fuel source to ignite and therefore cause death, serious injury, and severe damage to any equipment or aircraft within the vicinity. This is a medium level risk and it has been labeled as a 3A as the probability of this or the likelihood of this is remote, but if it were to occur, it would cause catastrophic damage. So what can we do to mitigate this? First, I believe that we should implement into our employee procedure manuals that personal electronic devices cannot be used within 10 feet of fueling operations. Now, if an employee has their electronic device secured in their pocket or left inside the cab of a fuel truck, that is acceptable, but they cannot be pulling out that phone while fueling or around a fueling operation. as well as within that procedure manual, specify that if a phone is exposed to jet fuel or aviation fuel of any sort, it needs to be thoroughly cleaned and potentially disposed of if those batteries are at risk of a thermal runaway. Also, if we provide an employee charging station behind our front desk, it will encourage employees to leave their phones inside while they are out on the ramp working and operating around the fuel. And then lastly, again, educating our employees on the dangers of any thermal runaway and electronic device use around fueling operations. If we can implement these, then we can lower this hazard to a 1A. It would be extremely improbable that a thermal runaway would occur around a fueling operation. However, if it does occur, it could still be a catastrophic event, but if we can mitigate this effectively, then it would be a very, very unlikely scenario. So what can we do? We can focus on safety as our goal here. We need to provide better training for our employees in terms of portable electronic device fires and ensure that we are maintaining the records and training records of this, as well as providing electronic device charging stations for our customers and employees to prevent any chance of a thermal runaway occurring. Safety is our priority and a core value here at Glacier Jet Center. Thank you for listening to this briefing, and I hope you consider the topics I have discussed.